Welcome, guys, to episode 13 of the Birthlink podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking to my friend Jaimie Zaki. She is also part of my coaching group, so that's where I got to know her. And she is a certified IBCLC, right? So board certified lactation consultant. This is international gold standard of lactation consultants if you're looking for one. And we go into what that actually means, what kind of certification that includes, what other kind of lactation consultants are out there. So definitely a great episode if either maybe you're interested in becoming a lactation consultant or you're interested to know what they're all about, or you are going to breastfeed or you are breastfeeding. What questions do you need to know? What's normal? What's not normal? And what can you do to reach out and get that resource, such a valuable resource? Check your insurance companies, see what includes, because you can get sometimes, I know Aetna, it gets 6 visits. Well, actually, it's 3 visits because you get the baby and the mom. Remember, you are not the only one that's seeing a lactation consultant. Your baby is too, right? This is all about your little one getting fed and how you're going to help supply that. So much stress, so much fear, so much anxiety can go into it. But once you get it, it's such a beautiful thing. And if that's what you are hoping for, then I wish nothing but success for you. I had my 2 babies. So when I was 20, I had Jordan, and I breastfed for 8 weeks because did I even go 8 weeks? Maybe a little less, but I did it because that's what I thought you're supposed to do. And I did my best, but I didn't have any resources. I had no help, no community, no one supporting me. And honestly, I didn't know it was even available. I went in thinking that it was just something that's natural. Now, remember, this is before Instagram and Facebook and all social media. And that's why I'm such a big proponent on it. Yes, you're going to get all this different kinds of information out there, but I would rather have all the information and know it's there and then do my research on it to see what works for me than not knowing anything, right? So we are in such a great period of time where we are able to put our feelers out there, open our eyes, and let all this new information and resources come to us, and then we can do our own research behind it. So whatever you see out there in social media, don't take it as facts. Even what I say, whatever you hear, whatever you see, and what feels good and you like and speaks to you, and go research it more and find out more about it. It may just be a perfect fit, right? Talk to your doctor, but even what your doctors say, you guys, and that's why I do this, because even experts they're coming with their own opinions, their own experiences. So they're going to have their own biases sometimes, and they may not always know what the newest and latest trends are or research or evidence. If you're getting your lactation information only from your pediatrician, it's going to be lacking because they are specialized and licensed in pediatrics, and that is such a huge field. There's so many, so they're going to know a little about a little about a lot, right? Because there's a lot of information. But if you want just like an expert on a specific situation like breastfeeding, then your lactation consultant is the one for you. And IBCLC is very, very well qualified. So anyways, this is a long episode, so I'm not going to go on and on right now. Jaimie Zaki, she's a military wife. She has 5 children of her own, but she's also a nurse and, like I said, international board certified lactation consultant. So I am excited. She's had a difficult time breastfeeding. We're going to get into it herself. She has been in the pits of despair when it comes to her journey breastfeeding her own babies. So we dive into that, right? And what she did to fight her way back, start her own business called Little Bear Lactation. And you can find her on Instagram at Little Bear Lactation. And her name's Jaimie, and follow her. She is amazing. She's just so real, you guys. She's your best friend. She's just like your sister. You can talk to her, and she's passionate and she understands, and she's going to fight for you, and she's going to do her best to make sure that you succeed. And if that's what you want, right? So if you want that bear behind you and you're a mama bear too, then I definitely recommend you reach out to her or follow her and learn more about what she has to say. But if not, let's just get into it now. I spent a whole hour with her, so I'm really, really excited. We're going to touch on like the formula industry and how they prey on new moms and their own insecurities. We're going to start talking about how to prepare to make sure that you're successful while you're still pregnant. And we get into some mistakes that moms usually make so we can make sure that you can avoid them. All right, so let's get into it. Our interview with Jaimie Zaki. Welcome to the Birthling Podcast, presented by My Friend's a Nurse. I'm your host, Colette Colliker, a high-risk labor and delivery nurse right here in sunny California. I'm also an OB certified specialist, birth educator, lactation expert, and mother of 2 beautiful daughters. I am passionate about guiding you through the miraculous journey of pregnancy and childbirth, using evidence and history and asking the reason why. I have some incredible medical friends and colleagues, and we're all here to help you navigate this often overwhelming birthing hospital system in the United States. My goal is to gain trust in birth, improve this system, and provide some valuable insights. Let's make this journey a little less daunting and a lot more joyful. Let's get into it. Yay, awesome. Thank you, Jaimie, for being here today. I know I just really want to get started on your story. First, thank you for being here. I know you have 5 kids, so you're quite experienced all on your own. And you had a tough time with your oldest, which got you into this journey. How old is your oldest? Tell us your story of your breastfeeding journey a little bit.
Hey, Colette, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, so my oldest, Aiden, he is 9 years old. He just turned 9. So my kids are 9, 7, 5, 3, and 1. And when he was born in 2015, and I thought, I'm a nurse. Like, I know that breast is best. Like, I know the basics of breastfeeding. I'm going to be able to figure this out. I read The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding, which I highly recommend, by the way. I call it the Breastfeeding Bible.
The Womanly, what was it?
And The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding.
Okay, cool. I'll put it in the show notes.
It's a book, yeah. And I call it the Breastfeeding Bible. I read that and I was like, look, between what I knew and between this book, I have got this. It's going to be great. I'm going to be able to breastfeed my baby. Like, I've got this covered. And if I have any problems, like, my doctor and the lactation consultant are going to help me because it's a baby-friendly hospital and they have a lactation consultant and she works in the pediatrician's office. So it's going to be fine. And I was about as wrong could be in believing that, which was a really hard wake-up call, especially when you really believe in the medical system and you've spent your life working in it and you realize it's not what you were sold and what you thought you were providing, like, is not the care that you're getting back. So I had a lot of struggles, and I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but after like weeks of struggling, I hit a low, like a really low. And I would have to go back to the doctor like twice a week because he was struggling with weight gain. So we would be going back every like 3 days for weight checks. And I would just keep begging and begging and begging them. And I was like, based off my research, based off what friends had told me, I suspected he had a tongue tie. And they kept telling me, no, he doesn't have a tongue tie. The latch is great. Eventually, it just boiled down to, all of it boiled down to, you're a redhead, so you're sensitive, and you should stop trying so hard. Formula exists for a reason. Like, I don't know why you're torturing yourself. Move on. What they weren't hearing was he couldn't take a bottle. Nobody even recommended like exclusive pumping as an option. Not that it would have worked since he couldn't take a bottle, but it was just, I was not given options. I was not heard. I was told the latch looks fine. If it doesn't feel fine, like, you must be broken. And that's not true. And unfortunately, it is the story that keeps being told over and over. 9 years later, it is still the same story that's being told. I was very blessed that my mom and the women I was surrounded with in my community were able to help me learn how to advocate for myself. And I'm really stubborn. So, like, quitting was never an option. Like, for me, it was like, I'm going to figure this out or die. Like, there was no in between. And so, I mean, him not taking a bottle didn't help with that either. Like, I really felt like I was between a rock and a hard place. But I learned how to advocate for myself. And my mom actually drove me 12 hours back to my hometown. And we found a doctor who would listen to me there. And I was on the phone with him explaining what I was experiencing. And he was like, this is a textbook case of a tongue tie causing breastfeeding issues. And it was the first time somebody listened to me and told me I wasn't crazy. I wasn't broken. Like, yes, there's a problem. And yes, there's something we can do about it. Looking back, I would have approached the tongue tie release and everything in a different way, but it worked for us, and it helped me realize everything I needed to know, which was I was not broken. Breastfeeding was not the problem. Like, it was so much more beyond that. And my providers, it was the medical system that was broken. It wasn't me. It wasn't my baby. Like, it was the medical system. So to make this long story really, really short, I kind of decided in that moment that something needed to change, but I wasn't sure what. I'm a licensed practical nurse, and I was going back for my RN when my son turned 6 months old. And I was super excited because I was like, I am going to be the change that like that we need to have. And I was talking to my preceptors like literally days before the program started. And I'm like, how are pumping accommodations going to work during clinicals and during lab days and everything? And they were like, yeah, we don't do that. You're not going to have pumping accommodations. Like, at that time, the laws, I don't really know what the laws are now, but at that time, all the laws were only protective of employees, not students. And I do think that still might be a problem right now. I'm not sure on the details there, but I basically was like, okay, well, I guess I'm giving up my spot then, because I worked too hard to get where I was to quit breastfeeding to go become a breastfeeding advocate. Like, that didn't make sense to me. So I was like, well, I'm just going to figure out how to do this another way. So I became a Lactation League leader, a certified breastfeeding specialist. And in 2019, I sat for my boards to become an IBCLC. And I have spent the last 5 years now, 5+ years working as a doula and lactation consultant, helping moms prepare for birth, prepare for postpartum, prepare for breastfeeding, and overcome every speed bump that you can hit along the way.
That's amazing. And probably you're doing more work this route than trying to do it from the inside. Let me just tell you, it's very frustrating and a struggle. And you have, maybe you have a little bit more freedom than working for a hospital as an RN. It's tough. It's just funny how our journey and paths get paved these certain ways that we don't see it. Like, you were probably distraught. What a difficult decision, because I know how hard it is to get into nursing school as it is. And for you to make that choice, that was huge, because I've been there.
Yeah, I mean, I had to take my exams. Oh gosh, I can't even remember what they're called, for getting into the bridge program. And I was like extremely pregnant,
like
and it was like, you can't leave to go to the bathroom or else. Yeah, it was like, you can't leave to go to the bathroom or else the whole test is invalidated. And I'm like hugely pregnant, and like, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to have to not pee for 3 hours.
It's crazy. Yeah, okay. They're very strict with those things. It's crazy. I know. Yeah. How long? So it took a couple years to become an IBCLC?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different pathways, and that is not worth spending time
no,
on right
no,
now.
I'm saying. Yeah, but what is the difference then? Because most women, they're thinking lactation consultant. The term IBCLC, which is International Breastfeeding Coalition.
International Board Certified Lactation Consultant.
I don't know. I know the IBCLC. I could say that real fast. But what's the difference then? If someone's looking for a lactation consultant, is this a thing that they should be looking for?
So this is a contentious topic in the lactation world, honestly. So an international board certified lactation consultant has had to go through a significant amount of training. Ideally, they've had to go through a significant amount of training to be eligible to sit for this board exam. And then it's an international level board exam that if you pass it, you are an international board certified lactation consultant. There's 3 different pathways to get there. And that's where we kind of start seeing a lot of problems and why there's so many different calibers of lactation consultants, I hate to say. because I was a nurse, I was able to use Pathway 1, being a nurse and La Leche League leader. I was able to use my time as a La Leche League leader as my clinical hours and my nursing education to help that. Unfortunately, and you might have seen this in the hospital or you might not have noticed it, but unfortunately, a lot of times nurses who are working on the floor a lot are able to just log all their hours for like the past 5 years that they've worked, and they're not actually being trained hands on in the broad spectrum of lactation care. So that's a murky kind of situation there. But you also have to have 90 hours of lactation specific education. So there is a lot that goes into it either way. Yeah, there is a lot. And then you have to have, so you recertify every 5 years and you have to have so many hours of practice and continuing education over that 5 year span to be eligible to recertify. So it's a lot. It is a lot. And I do recommend working with an international board certified lactation consultant if you are having breastfeeding issues, because there are breastfeeding educators. There's what's called CLCs, which is a certified lactation counselor. They all have an important role to play, but the training is not as robust, as deep, and as demanding. And what that means is many of the other qualifications are not skilled and trained in handling complex feeding situations and working as a member of the healthcare team. So it is something to consider when you are working with somebody for lactation support. You do want to make sure that if it's beyond like the normal course of basic breastfeeding challenges, that you are working with an IBCLC and you want to know what their experience is. Because just because somebody has been an IBCLC for 10 years in the hospital, if they are new to working outpatient, they might not have experience working with babies who are, outside that newborn window or aren't medically complex, but have complex feeding issues. So just kind of knowing who you're working with, what you're working with makes a
Totally.
difference.
And I know like in the hospital, we, all the OB nurses, maternity, maybe postpartum's a little different. They probably do more, but we get 8-hour training. So I think maybe a 16-hour training when I was first hired. And then that was it. So it's been 8 years. No one's offered me any other class. I have to go out and get it on my own. But these are the nurses, us, that will be working with you the first couple of days after you deliver. So I always say, take my, I personally have done a lot of research on my own outside, but I'm kind of a rare case. The nurses are
Yeah.
so busy just nursing and doing what we need to do that they're not looking on their time off to go build their education around breastfeeding. So most of the advice you're going to get is going to be conflicting. So one nurse is going to tell you and another nurse is going to tell you something different, and none of them are going to be lactation consultants or certified counselors or IBCLCs. So if you're in the hospital, I always say request someone, a nurse that has specialized, that's either certified, because they do exist on the floor. And if it's not your nurse, you can request them. And also, if your nurse has some good tips, they may have some great tips, and take it in and see what works for you. But don't hold it as gold and don't think, well, my nurse told me that I didn't know. Well,
Yeah.
it's because she has a.
Yeah. When it comes to doctors and lactation or doctors and nurses, one thing that I have found to be mostly true is their own personal experiences with feeding their own babies is reflected in their work, and that can be really good or it can be really bad. And so if that's like you don't know what you're getting, you don't know what their personal story is, and a lot of times their personal story ends up kind of projected onto their patients. Unfortunately, it's horrible, but we are humans and that does happen. So just keeping that in mind, I think, is really important, that if whatever advice you're getting is not sitting with you, it's okay to find help somewhere
And
else.
also we're experiencing the first couple of days. And the first couple of days, you're probably in this late birth fog, and you're tired, and your baby's sleeping a lot more. And then all of a sudden you go home and the whole story changes, and you're like, wait, she latched in the hospital. What happened? Or, what's why am I now worrying about jaundice and sleep and weight management, like with your little one, so it's a continuous process, right? And unfortunately, doctors jump right to formula as an easy fix because I think in medicine, we're just all about fixing it. We want to put a Band-Aid on it and continuing, oh, you're suffering? Here, I got a medicine. And for them, formula is almost kind of medicine, right? So almost a patch.
But they don't treat it like a medical intervention though, do they? They don't talk about the benefits, risks, and have an in-depth conversation.
No, and honestly, that's a whole nother topic because they don't do that with a lot around birth. I always
Yeah.
say, I'm like,
Yeah.
birth is like the one procedure, and I'm quote procedure because that's how I feel like how they deal with it. They're not sitting down talking to you about, before labor, during labor, what is the process going to be? What are the possible interventions? How are you going to recover? This conversation should be had by a provider before you ever get in there. And just like that, is a breastfeeding. If you are choosing to breastfeed your baby and it is important to you and you understand the benefits and you also understand the risks of not breastfeeding and you chose that, then your education needs to start before you ever get into the birth room or labor room, and so that you are set up for success. And then you're going to be able to spot what is normal and what is abnormal way quicker, and you're going to have resources ready to go. And that's why what you're doing, I feel, is so important by being able to support women during pregnancy. Get to know them, get to know their values, what is important to them, what are they really concerned about. A lot of it is a mental game, right? Mindset, and work with them. And then when they're born, you're going to be able to boom, go in with, okay, let's see where we're at. And they're going to feel more confident. And so can you tell me more? I myself am curious, but I know you have a membership program. You have an educational program that you work with women, maybe one-on-one or in a group, so that you can walk them through it. Because I see women, they say, I saw my baby's having problems latching. I'm struggling. I want to breastfeed so bad. I'm so jealous of the women that are just able to latch and go and get on with their day. And it's such a struggle. And not only that, it's 4 weeks postpartum. So I'm exhausted, hormonal, I'm suffering, and I just want to breastfeed so bad. And I saw a lactation consultant twice. So can you jump into that idea of one and done, being able to fix it, and then what you offer? I would love
Yeah.
to make sure we touch on this.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So I always tell women, like, we spend so much time when we are pregnant. What's the first thing you do? You pee on the stick, and then you're like, find a doctor or a midwife or whatever, right? And then it's like every night after that, you're up at 3 a.m. Googling the random questions that pop into your head about birth. And then you realize, like, oh, do I want an epidural? Do I want a C-section? Do I want like this? Do I want that? And we're spending literally like 9 months preparing for our birth. Even if you don't create a birth plan, you have some kind of birth plan in your head and in your heart, right? So you have this birth plan that you have prepared for 9 months, and moms are just slapping breastfeeding on the birth plan like it's, I don't know, an extra order of fries at McDonald's or something.
Do you want chocolate or vanilla?
Like,
I like chocolate. Thank you.
Exactly. It's just this like afterthought, because it's like, well, once the baby's out, they're just gonna eat. Like, we were made to breastfeed, and yeah, we were, but we were also made for community. We were also made to learn how to breastfeed by witnessing it. And we've been completely removed from that in our society. We are in a society that is controlled by formula marketing and capitalism, which sorry.
Totally, of course.
I'm not trying to go down like a whole thing on that. Like, capitalism has its benefits and its drawbacks, and moms are easy targets, is really where we're at when it comes to the formula marketing. So when we've got all that at play, breastfeeding isn't just as simple as it's natural. and it's just going to happen. It just isn't that simple. So I think it's really important, looking back on my breastfeeding journey, if I could have done one thing different, I would have taken a breastfeeding class. And I did not take a breastfeeding class. And that is because I knew that the hospital breastfeeding class was not enough. And I did not have anything else available to me at that time because it was 2015, 2014. And like the online world was still like, I don't know, a lot has changed even in those last 10 years. Like there was not as much access as there is now. So I really wish I had had somebody to walk alongside me and be like, look, this is what breastfeeding should look like. And that Womanly Art of Breastfeeding book that I mentioned earlier does a very good job of that. But it does a very good job of saying, like, this is normal. If it's not normal, this is what you can do. And if not, go get help, which is important. But what happens when you get to that point and there is no help? There's nobody who's listening to you that you need help. That's what moms are facing every single day. They're like, this isn't right. My gut's telling me it's not right. The mom down the corner is telling me it's not right. But everybody else is saying, suck it up, deal with it. It'll get better, or go to formula. And they don't have somebody to help. And so that's where the Confident Mama Bear Society comes in, because I want to not just teach you how to breastfeed. I want to teach you how to be a confident mom. I want to teach you how to advocate for what you need, for what your baby needs. So you learn everything that you need to know about breastfeeding, how to get breastfeeding off to a good start. And you also learn how to advocate for yourself in the hospital so you're not being bullied to take formula unnecessarily, but you also know how to accept it if it is what's needed. And you learn that breastfeeding doesn't have to be perfect to be positive. That's what I love to tell my moms is like, breastfeeding does not have to be perfect to be positive. You might see pictures of me on Instagram breastfeeding my baby like it's no thing, but you don't see the weeks that I spent crying on the shower floor because I couldn't feed my baby without wanting to throw him across the room because I was in so much pain. And like, you don't see that side of it. And so many moms experience that and never talk about it. Or if they do talk about it, it's just kind of brushed off like, yeah, well, that's normal, right? And it's like, no, that's not normal. That's not normal. And we need to be sharing these stories because it's common, but it's not normal. And it shouldn't, it's just not normal. I'm sorry, I'm like repeating myself. But
It's a complication.
Why would we be
It's a complication.
Exactly. Why would we be designed to feed our babies with our bodies and then have it be an absolutely miserable experience? That doesn't make sense from an evolutionary perspective. So we need to start like revitalizing that community. We really need a revolution of moms to just like stand up and be like, we are supporting each other through this. We are teaching each other how to advocate, and we've got experts on our side, experts who can help us when we don't know the answers, because we don't all know all the answers. Even as an expert, I don't know all the answers, and I lean on other experts, right? So the Confident Mama Bear Society really is designed to take you through that preparation for breastfeeding so that when your baby is there, you are confident in feeding your baby. And you know that if you are facing something that is not quite right, you know where to get help. You know where to find help. Because support really is everything, and support looks so different for every family, but support is your significant other, support is your family, support is your friends, support is your doctors. But there's a lot of moms that don't have support from any of those people, and breastfeeding is still important to them. And they need a place to find that support. And that's what I'm trying to create, is a space where they can find that support, where it is not censored. They can share their struggles, they can share their triumphs, and they have access to me to help them like understand, like just figure out why I'm hearing this from my doctor and this from Google and this from the mom down the street, and none of it makes sense when I try to apply it to me. Because guess what? Like, breastfeeding is not textbook. You're a human being. You're not a robot. Your baby's not a robot. You have your own individual factors, and I can help you kind of flesh out what it is that's making it unique for you, and then help you make adjustments that fit your goals and your situation versus what everybody's telling you you should do or should want. And I mean, I'm not going to be afraid to tell you this is what ideal looks like. But my ideal and a textbook ideal might be different than your ideal. So we need to work toward how do we make the ideal and your ideal come together to work for you. And that's why it really is important to have not just, you see the Facebook groups, the Facebook communities, and they are great. Like, they helped me when I didn't know what I needed to start learning more about. Like, I learned things that I was able to then investigate and then had to tailor to me. I couldn't stop there. And I feel like a lot of these, social media things, they kind of stop there, and you don't get that extra step of, now we tailor this information to you. So that's what we're providing in the Confident Mama Bear Society is, like, we've got this information, we've got these experiences, now we tailor it to you.
You have to have that. It's so important because it's so nuanced. It's so individualized. It's just like birth, right? I say, okay, you can take a birth class and you can learn the process of birth and what is going to be kind of expected. And that's great. I have my own birth course, so I get it. But to have a coach, right? I go to the gym, I have a trainer. I meet with him once a week for an hour, and he knows my lifestyle, what I do for work, my stress levels, my diet. We go over my diet every time I see him. He knows like what exercises I do and what weight on each exercise I'm at, so that I can push myself a little bit more to get results. Because at the end of the day, we want the results, right? We want to be able to feed our baby and be chill and be in the middle of a conversation and my baby's hungry and I pop her on and I continue the conversation without, like, that's like, whoa, I want to have that without without the tears and the blood and the like, I want my baby to grow and have that connection that connection with our baby is probably the strongest part, and we need results. And I would not get the results that I have got. I see my thighs popping. Okay. My muscles are working. All right. I have my biceps going, and I would not be there without my coach, who understands the body system way more than I ever would, and is able to tailor what he knows and his knowledge to my personal experience. And I also have the same thing with a nutrition coach who I talk to on a weekly basis, just through text. Like, I don't even need a whole thing, but she's like, where are you at? And a lot of it's mental, right? I just want the sugar and the cookies and all of this stuff. And she's like, okay, for you, I know nutrition. I know what your body needs. I take your weight into account, all the measurements and how much protein you're getting and carbs. There's so much data that she can use and her own experience to then tailor it to me. And if I just worked with her once or twice, it wouldn't work, because it's a constant adjusting as I grow to get the results I want. And a lot of it's my mindset, and a lot of it is actual data and numbers and like physiologically what's going on. And that's how I love seeing. And we do that with business. We do that with, with so many things in our life, like life coach, right? So I kind of love the term myself as like a birth coach or a nurse coach or a breastfeeding coach, because I see coaches as someone that knows your goal, that knows what you are working with and how to get to bridge that gap between where you're struggling and where you can grow and get you to your goal. And it's not going to be a one-time thing. It's not going to be a one-time appointment, one class, and boom, you're fixed. You have to go regularly and building that community around you. So I'm listening to podcasts. I am part of, Facebook groups that are with women that are all struggling doing kind of the same thing, because they may ask questions that I never even thought of asking, or they may have a problem that I can actually help with. So I give my input, because and it just makes you feel not alone. So the fact that you have this Confident Mamas Society where you have women that are doing, that are struggling with the same, they all probably want the same goal, or it's the same issue, like specific issue with breastfeed. They want to breastfeed their baby, and they're all having a little bit different though. So going to one person one time or two times, or taking your nurses and it's like, it's not working. And you're like, you need that. You're so right. We need that support. We need to build that community. And that's why I love I love calling it coaching, because then that means it's not a one-time thing. It's you have to keep coming, and for you to be able to be there for them and give that support and then build that community is exactly what we need to change this broken system that we have, right? So
Yeah, I think we need to definitely not be depending on the medical system because, I mean, our medical system really is, it's a sick care system. It's not a healthcare system. It is designed for helping sick people, like you said before, like a quick fix for sickness, right? It's not designed for health. It's not designed for understanding how our bodies work and working within that design to make that design work as wonderfully as possible. It's all about fixing that design. And so when it comes to breastfeeding, it's so easy. And birth is the same. You know this. It's so easy for reasons we could spend 3 hours talking about to pathologize birth and breastfeeding and find everything that's wrong with it. But what if we focused on what's right with it? What if we focused on how it's supposed to work and how to make it work even when not everything is perfect? And like you said, it does. It takes time. The moms that I see the best experiences with, they don't have easy breastfeeding relationships. They don't have easy breastfeeding experiences, but we work together through pregnancy. We worked together in the early postpartum days. We worked together weeks later, and they call me months later with questions. And those are the moms because they were prepared, they had support, so they were able to face their challenges not with ease, but with hope and with confidence and with the belief that they are able. And the truth is, you are able to breastfeed your baby. Even if you don't make any milk, you can breastfeed your baby because it is so much more than food. And there are ways that you can still have a positive breastfeeding relationship. And that is what I just want moms to understand is breastfeeding may not look exactly like you imagined in your head. It probably won't. I have 5 babies. I am a lactation consultant. And with my fifth baby who was born last year, I was sitting up one night crying. And I'm like, I don't understand why this has to be so hard. I'm a lactation consultant. Like, this shouldn't be hard for me. And my husband looked at me and he was like, what would you tell one of your clients right now? And I just burst into tears because I know what I would tell her. And when I told myself that, it was like, it just made sense. And it's like, we know we're going to get through this. We know that it's going to be a difficult journey for us because all of my babies have had tongue ties. That's just all of my babies have had tongue ties and they can't eat. And we have to go through so much to get them to the point where they can. But we can. Like, it's a solvable problem, right? And that's what I want moms to know is like, so many breastfeeding issues you do hear about are actually preventable in the first place. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Like, so many of them are preventable. And then the ones that aren't, I'd say 95% of the time are totally fixable. Maybe 90% of the time are totally fixable. And that other 10%, they're like improvable. Like, we can do things. You don't have to just sit and suffer. But we need to have that continuum. We need to be on the same page and we need to be constantly checking in. It's not an overnight thing. It's not a wave of the magic wand. And so that's my favorite thing about the Confident Mama Bear Society is it is a monthly membership, but there is an annual option. And I love that because you get that full year. You get that full year of like preparing during the 3rd trimester, having that intense support during that 4th trimester. And then you go into the rest of it. Once you overcome all of your challenges, like you don't have to wait until you're 16 weeks or 16 weeks postpartum to finally get help. Like I see so many moms do. So many moms come to me like, my baby's 4 months old and we still haven't figured this out. And I'm like, why didn't you come to me 15 weeks ago?
They probably had no idea. I had no,
They didn't.
My baby's
or they were
4.
told. They were told it'll get better. Just keep trying. Just keep trying.
My baby's 4. I had no idea, and I was a nurse, and I didn't even know that I could have something like this. Like, and you know what? If I got pregnant again, I would, even with all my experience, I would still probably buy in and get a coach or someone like you that can build a community, just so that I can feel
Yeah.
that level of support. And even as a birth coach, I would
Yeah. And
probably
then,
get a doula and have someone by my side. We need
oh,
support. We learn, and we don't know everything. Just like you said, I learn something new every single day. So
seriously, it's so true. And then, once you get past that, like if you're getting help early, I'd say most moms who get breastfeeding help early, by the time 3 to 4 months rolls around, they are pros, they are cruising, and they're like, hard? What? I don't even remember
yeah,
those days.
yeah.
Like they've blocked it out, right? And things are going great. And then you still have those next few months where you get to support other moms who are where you just were. You get to bring, now you're the expert and you're the experienced one who's bringing hope to those moms and letting them know. And we start that cycle. And then you can ask your questions about starting solids and weaning when you get to that point, or not weaning and breastfeeding longer than you had anticipated, because you're surprised. Like, I never thought I'd breastfeed past a year, and then my son was 3 years old and I was tandem feeding. Like, what? Like the things we do once we
Yeah,
figure
I
it
need a
out,
coach on
right?
how to
Like,
stop breastfeeding.
yeah.
We got another problem.
I can help with that too. I can help
Oh,
with that
good.
too. So you get that full long, that long
Relationship.
just
Yeah.
ongoing support. Yes, that relationship. And that's what it really is. It's about a relationship. I mean, you hopefully build a relationship with your doctors during pregnancy. That's what most women want. It doesn't always happen, but that's what most women want. And you need that postpartum too. You can't just be, and I find, most moms get cut off from their medical team postpartum. Like they might not even make it to their 6 week appointment for one reason or another. So it's like they're discharged from the hospital and that's it. They might be seeing a pediatrician. Like I work with a lot of holistic families, so they're not always even seeing a pediatrician as frequently as some families that leave the hospital. And I really am that touch point that's like, hey, like this is what's normal, this is what's not, and this is when you really need to consider getting more help. And this is when you really need to consider taking this avenue. And I see how many moms are just there. It's like you're left to figure it out on your
And
own.
it's
And
out, actually,
we,
you
we
brought up
worked,
pediatrician.
we,
It's a rare pediatrician that is even experienced in breastfeeding. And
exactly,
please don't
exactly.
take your pediatrician. Build a great relationship with them. But if their answer for your problems is formula and it's not some extra tools or a referral to a wonderful IBCLC, then I would question them significantly. And you know what? They're going to do like great on diagnosing and getting you data. And that's what they're there for. If your baby's sick, if you need some help with that, pediatrician's a way to go. But for preventative and for things like breastfeeding, just don't don't lean on your
I always
pediatrician only.
say, I always say there are really good pediatricians out there. Sometimes it can sound like I'm telling moms not to trust their pediatrician, and that's not true. I'm just saying that not all pediatricians are trustworthy, and the ones who are going to tell you the exact same thing. They're going to say, I don't know anything about breastfeeding. Go see a good lactation consultant.
A doctor that
And
says,
if they
I don't
don't,
know, I
yeah,
trust. And I work with them.
exactly. If your baby was having a heart problem or a brain problem or some type of neuro problem, GI, they're going to send you to specialists. But they're having feeding issues and they're like, oh, I know everything. Just take a bottle and that fixes it. And it's like, no, it doesn't. It's a Band-Aid fix. Okay, the baby's eating, but is that our only goal? Is the baby's getting calories? Because I think the goal is a lot deeper than that.
Yeah, it has to be, what is your goal?
I think the goal with all of our wellness is a
Yeah.
lot deeper than
Yeah.
that. Like you don't I'm not saying formula doesn't have a time and place. I've had patients that I've had to say, like, you need to use formula or donor milk or your baby's going to be admitted to the hospital. Like, you need to do that. There are times it's necessary, but it needs to be used wisely. And there's ways you can use it to support breastfeeding, and your pediatrician's not going to know how to tell you to do
And
that.
most likely you're not even going to be speaking with your pediatrician much before. And preparation is so key. Your obstetrician is going to be like, what? I don't know. So where are you going to find this knowledge and the support before you ever give birth? And you have to search it out. you have to go to the Little Bear. It's your company. What is it called? Little Bear Lactation. I love that name.
Yeah, Little Bear Lactation. Thank
Little
you.
Bear
Thank
Lactation.
you. My husband named it.
littlebearlactation.com and join the Confident Mama Society. If you're interested, I'm gonna put this in the show notes too. But she gave me a little code, podcast 50 for 50% off your first month, you guys. So
It's off the
what?
year membership,
Oh, perfect.
Sorry, and that's I did change it because I was thinking about it, and I was like we just said, like they need more than just a month. Like
get the year.
Like you need more than a month. You need a full year of support. And so if you want to breastfeed your baby and it is so important to you and you want to breastfeed your baby confidently and you want to know exactly where to turn if it's not so easy, we are here for you. We are here for you. And you get that full year podcast.
Shut
50,
up. That is such a good deal.
Yeah. It gives you 50%
I'm getting all my
off,
clients
so
on there right now. Like you guys have to.
It's literally
add
like
it to my price.
I
guess what you get.
Yeah. It works out to like 8 months free or something.
You
like
guys,
4 months,
forget
6
about
months
it.
free.
Just get the year.
Yeah. It's
I wish I knew you 20 years ago.
Like,
I guess you weren't doing this. My first baby was a hot mess. So awesome. So basically we want to be careful with, anything that we're seeing from messaging from formula companies are going to push it. I think I got two free samples. So that's 2 cans of formula sent to me just from, I think, joining like babylist.com or something. They found out I was pregnant and they just sent it to me. I was like, I had so much formula and I not once ordered it or wanted it. They just creepy. And I was like, hey, thanks.
Like it would be so creepy if I started like calling people like, hey, can I help you breastfeed? I hear you're pregnant. Like how weird would that be?
And they give you samples and we have them at the hospital. Even if it's baby friendly, all we need is an order from the doctor in that case, if you want a formula feed. So we just limit your access to the formula, but we don't necessarily give you the right tools and send you home with them. So I don't know what they mean by baby friendly or breast. Baby friendly doesn't always mean breastfeeding friendly. It just means we're going to make it harder for you to get formula because we want you to breastfeed.
But we're not going to teach
but
you
we're
how
not
to
going to actually send you a proper educator, and you'll get a lactation consultant if you're lucky 1 or 2 times in the hospital, and that is it. And then you're going to have to do the work to get the referral yourself. So don't just use these, Fed is best and the formula at your door and the hospital is baby friendly and think that that's going to solve your problems. It's false it's not going to. I don't know how to stress this enough. And most moms, they get to 2 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, and then they call it quits because they just, for their own mental health, they can't continue. And it's sad because, like you said, so much is preventable. And yeah.
And it's so important to them in that if I can touch on that just real quickly, like it is so important to moms to breastfeed. And when I hear moms say that they stopped for their own mental health, what that tells me most of the time is that they didn't have support.
1,000%.
They didn't have support. And it's like, I don't blame a mom who's in pain every single day and who's dreading feeding her baby. I do not blame you for stopping and quitting, but I don't think that you have your choices that you have to make are, I have to breastfeed or I have to suffer. Like I have to suffer and breastfeed or not breastfeed. Like those aren't your choices. There's more options and nobody told her that. Nobody helped her find them. And so it always breaks my heart when I hear moms say that, because so many times it's like there were options that you could have held on to that and taken care of yourself.
And not only that, but if it's a mental health issue, they're leaving the situation thinking something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's just not. And I love when we first talked, when we first met, you did a masterclass for my group and we chatted a little bit, and you, like, the first question you asked was, who did you see breastfeeding when you grew up? Like that was the first question you asked.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, nobody. Because you're right. We just don't have the visualization. We don't have the upbringing of people around us that are breastfeeding. And then if we did, it's highly likely that they're not around to support us on the regular to show us how to do it or answer our questions, and or they have data or they're working on just their own experience from 40 years ago, So
yeah, I actually talked to a mom the other day who was telling me that she, like, all of her aunts and cousins, they all breastfed. Like, that is such a rare thing in our generation to have all of our aunts having breastfed all of their cousins. It was like a huge family and they all breastfed. And she was like, I never could have succeeded at breastfeeding if I hadn't seen that growing up and if they weren't all there for me, because one dealt with low milk supply and was able to help her with that. And another one had dealt with other issues that she was able to come in and be like, yeah, I experienced that. This is how we get through it. If she didn't have that, who would she have turned to? And most of us don't have that. Most of us don't have that. I come from a huge family and I'm the first person to breastfeed my babies.
My mom was like, she breastfed all of us till we were 2 or 3 years old. And I'm the oldest, but I still can't picture her breastfeed. Like, wait, I was 7 when she was breastfeeding my littlest sister. And I don't remember seeing it because she was very private about it. She was very modest. So it wasn't something that we talked about or did anything like that. So I don't remember seeing it, and she never talked about it with me as a teenager or as I grew up. It was breastfeeding was done and she just moved on. It wasn't something that she thought she needed to share with me. Even when I was 20 years old, struggling, I didn't even think of asking her. It was just like, we just didn't have that kind of relationship at that time. But I had never knew that was something. I was like you said, I thought it was supposed to be natural and easy. And then it wasn't. And I was like, F this. I don't want to do it anymore.
It's hard to ask for help.
Yeah, it is very hard to ask for help
when it's like,
especially with your mom.
It feels like an admission. Yeah, it feels like it's an admission that you're not doing something right, and that's not it at all.
I ended up getting
not it at all. It's hard, and you need help. It's fine.
I ended up getting mastitis and like a bad infection, and it was just so painful. And so it was easy for me to be like, oh well, I got an infection. I can't breastfeed anymore. I'm done. But nobody ever knows like the struggle getting there. Like that I was just misinformed. I needed to pump all the time to make sure that I had enough milk. And then I was overproducing, and then the baby wasn't feeding enough. And I was always engorged, but I thought that was what it was supposed to be. And I was leaking everywhere. A baby would cry in public and I would just be leaking. And I never knew that it was because I was pumping so much. And then I would get, these clogged ducts. And then of course I got mastitis. So, but I never asked anything. My doctor said just the symptoms, what to look for. And that was it. And then I just gave up. I never knew that I was doing anything wrong because I got one piece of information that I needed to make sure that that was a big thing. Make sure you have enough milk. I didn't need that help. I personally make just enough milk, and I should never have been pumping or doing any of that. And looking back, knowing what I know now, I was like, well, dang, nobody told me, like, are you pumping too much?
Yeah, and if you are doing something wrong, like, it's okay. It's not something to feel bad that you like did something quote wrong. Like, we can just figure out a way to do it better that supports your body. Right. And it's not like I feel like there's so much emotion tied up in the whole conversation that it's hard to touch on everything, but it really is so complex. But it's like okay, maybe you're latching your baby wrong. That doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It just means you need to adjust your technique, and that's okay. Like football players, their coaches tell them, like you said, their coaches tell them to adjust their technique, not because they're a bad football player, but because they're really freaking capable if they just make this one little change. And it's the same for moms. It's the same for you, whoever is listening. You are so freaking capable. Just don't get caught up in all the confusing, conflicting advice, and like come here where we can like lay it out for you. And then if you do need more support, you do need that one-to-one, like, okay, this really is not clicking, Jaimie. Like all the workshops and classes, they're not giving it to me. What's the problem? Like, then we can work together to make it fit for you. We can do extra. Like you're not alone. You're
like
not
you said,
alone.
like the athletes, like if they had one like I'm not able to like run a mile in how 6 minutes. I don't even how long does it take? I can't run my 8 minute mile, and they went to Facebook and they went to a runners group and they posted, I can't hit my 8 mile, like, or 8 minute mile. Like, what's wrong? I'm doing this and this. And then you're going to have 100 comments of all these people that are giving you their,
you need to buy these
yeah,
shoes, right?
you're
You need
doing,
to buy
do
these
this,
shoes.
do
No,
this, do
you
this,
need
do this.
to
And
wear
you're like,
these
oh
shorts.
crap, but wait, what? Like, they don't know anything about you or your struggle or your nipples or your baby or anything. They're just going to throw all this advice at you. So I just want to be careful when you just go for like one problem and you post it up. They may give you some good ideas, but it's so unstructured. You're going to be spinning your wheels, trying all these ideas with nothing working. You're like, oh my God, I've tried everything. You tried everything that a few moms on Facebook wanted to shove, and they're probably coming in with their own biases, their own experiences, so just be cautious. I'm not saying don't ask a specific question on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, but you want to make sure that you're going directly to someone. And even if that someone is an expert and they're throwing advice at you without even having a conversation with you, then you have to be careful. So I get an IBCLC, talk to Jaimie, find her Little Bear Lactation. You're on Instagram, right? Facebook. Yeah.
I am. I'm at Little Bear Lactation on Instagram and
get
TikTok,
into her DMs and ask her, and she'll be able to speak with you directly and figure out what you need to reach your goals. And I, of course, can get you started if you want to work with me as a coach, but I always refer once they're delivering, during the pregnancy period, while we are coaching you through to prepare you for birth, because that's what I know, birth in the hospital system, how are you going to prepare for that?
Yeah.
But it's a transition period. Then now you need to move into newborn care. And I definitely touch on newborn care. And we're going to talk about that fourth trimester, that first 3 months. Breastfeeding, sleep, newborn care, vaccines, all of that is part of it. But then if you want to get into something specific, like if breastfeeding is a goal, then you need to get someone that specifically will work with you on that. And you need to do it early and be part of that group that like you have with that Confident Mama Society, so that you can really gain the knowledge and feel like they're hearing you and you as a whole person, mind, body, soul, everything. What are your goals? And include your partners. I know you're doing something on next week, and let me know what it's all about, because yes. I love that, because you're including the partner and you're doing, tell me.
Yep. So my husband, he's amazing, and he has been everything that has made sure that I have successfully breastfed. He was, he saw his mom breastfeeding growing up, and I always talk about generational wisdom and womanly wisdom, but that gets passed down to sons too. When sons see their mothers breastfeeding, they learn how to support their wives better. And that's exactly what he learned. He was 8 years old and 10 years old when his younger siblings were born. So he just he remembers seeing it, and he remembers it was just normal for him. So he was not afraid of supporting me through it. And he was like, my mom could do it. You can do it. Like, if she could do it, you can. There's no reason you can't. And because he had that belief in me, he knew exactly how to help me and how to support me through it. So next week, we're doing a live workshop to teach new parents how to work as a team to support breastfeeding, because if you're not working as a team, it's really common that dads are super concerned about the baby
and mom's mental health
and the mom. And yeah, and he's seeing all this going on, and he's seeing them struggle, and he feels very helpless, and his job is to protect.
And they're fixers, right? If it's a man we're talking about, it's usually
they've got that. Exactly.
Like
exactly. He can't shut off that instinct to want to help, right? And want to make sure everybody's okay. But how he does that matters. And a lot of dads, unfortunately, don't have the tools to do that in a way that supports breastfeeding. And it very frequently turns into undermining breastfeeding, sending messages that maybe you don't think she's good enough, or that, it just, ways that undermine breastfeeding. You think you're helping, you're actually hurting. And not only does that hurt breastfeeding, it hurts your relationship.
Yeah, if you're immediately,
It hurts your
I feel
relationship.
like the fixer in our partners, because they probably see us struggling, they probably see us crying, they probably see us just the struggle of it, and their hearts break, and they're like, it's okay if you want to go to formula. They're gonna go boom, like, let's fix the problem, because they don't want to see us suffering.
Yeah.
And they also don't know how to fix it any other way. They're not IBCLCs.
Yes.
They're not going to be grabbing your breasts and showing you different moves or getting into your mind and what do you really want.
But if they learn all the
yes,
things, they could. Like my husband, so my favorite story to tell is my husband, I like refused to learn how to use the pump. I was so pissed off that I had to pump. I was like, I refused to learn how to use it. So he just like sat there and like figured out how the pump worked. And I'd be like crying and he'd be like, here. And he'd just like hook me up to the pump and we'd sit there and he'd take it away and just deal with it. He just dealt with it. He did it for me. He took the thing that was stressing me out and made it less stressful. And so we are going to talk about all of the common mistakes that dads make and how to avoid making those mistakes so that you can work as a team to support breastfeeding. And it's a live event next week. So by the time this comes out, it will have happened already, but it is saved for the Confident Mama Bear Society members. So anybody who is a
send
member
me a link. I'll blast it out to my email group too, because and my clients too will, I'm sure they'll love to join. So valuable.
I will send that all to you because it's gonna be good. I'm excited. He's excited. He's a little nervous. He's not an on-camera guy, but
say what you know.
He's
excited. Just the fact that he's getting on the mic and doing it shows how supportive he is.
He's always telling people at work, like, oh, like if your wife is struggling with breastfeeding, like you need an IBCLC, you could call my wife. But then it gets weird because people are like, my boss is like, I don't know. It gets a little weird, but some weird situations. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's so funny. But he tells everybody, like, you know, he's always telling his guys, like, look, this is what you need to do for her. Like, this will help her. And so we're gonna bring that here to the forefront of the moms and the dads and bring them together so that he can share some of that dad insight, because that's, you know, we're growing a family here. It's like mom and baby are obviously the center point, but it's a family. So we need to build that family bond.
You have to. So what is that going to be called?
How dads
can support breastfeeding. Bam. So go to littlebearlactation.com, and I'm sure there's more information of how you could get that recording. Since you probably missed the live one, I will shoot it out to my email group and help you promote that, because I think it's just so beautiful. And get that 50% off of that. And you guys, just do it. Podcast 50.
It's literally like 6 or 8 months free. Like, take the 50% off the first year.
Yes, your goals, your baby are worth it, and that's the best way that you're going to get the knowledge that you need. So thank you, Jaimie, so much for chatting with me. I always say these are going to be like 20, 30 minutes, and it's just the biggest lie ever.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's not you.
Talking,
It's this stuff is important. There's a lot of information, and thank you everyone for sticking with us and listening through. If you have any other questions, you know, you can reach me at Colette at myfriendsnurse.com, and you can reach Jaimie at Little Bear Lactation. And yeah, anything else you want to leave us? Yes? No? I know, I love that. You're like, what? That's okay. We've talked so much. Thank you so much, Jaimie, and we will see you next time. Yay, amazing. I really hope you enjoyed that episode today with Jaimie. Remember, you can follow her at Little Bear Lactation and on Instagram, Facebook, wherever, littlebearlactation.com if you want to learn more about her or work with her. She does work virtually and has amazing courses. So it really doesn't matter where you live. And you know what? It's actually really cool. The lactation consultants that I spoke to that work virtually say they have actually better success than in-person lactation consultants. Can you believe that? Because it actually, forces the moms to use their own hands and look and assess with their own eyes, and they're empowered to do so. And that way they can take what they learn outside and they already have that hands-on experience and trust in themselves and their gut and what they're doing. So reach out to her, consider a virtual lactation consultant. I think it's a great decision you are making for yourself. You're going to get way more bang for your buck too, especially when you go somewhere like Little Bear Lactation, where she develops this whole community of women that are riding on right beside you. Because you know I'm a huge proponent of building that community around you, so you just don't feel alone with your struggles, because breastfeeding is not easy. I mentioned before when we first started the episode that I struggled because I didn't know, and my baby now is 3 years old and breastfed for 3 years. So, and it still wasn't easy. And I still knew what I was doing, but man, it was a lot easier. And I just got through those tough times so much stronger. And I had so much more hope and confidence, right? I think confidence is key. And when we don't have that support and we don't have that education, we can lose our confidence so quickly. And once we lose that and we have your husband or your wife or your doctors telling you, you know, you could just breastfeed. You don't have to be torturing yourself like this. And you're just like, I guess I can. And then it's just a quick fix to the problem. But it's if you really wanted to breastfeed and you can't get over that hurdle, then you're going to be, I don't know, you might end up disappointed. When I was 20, I was like, well, that didn't work. And I moved on pretty quickly, like, cool formula, let's do it. This is not working. I got mastitis. Because I got super engorged because I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be pumping so much. And I didn't know anything. And it's painful. Oh my gosh. Forget the latching. Engorgement is awful. And I had to deal with that. And I was happy to give it up. But it did have a lasting effect. Like 10 years, 20 years later, I was like, dang, like I never actually got that. And I didn't even know I missed it until it was gone. So if this is what you're interested in doing and you love it, then give it a shot. And we're here for you. And you know I'm here for you too. So message me and find me if you're having any issues, if you need more resources or questions. You can email me at Colette@myfriendsandnurse.com or write me on Instagram. You know I live in there. And I am going to jump to help you. I promise. Next week, we're going to dive into the first 15. Again, the series continues because there's so much we need to talk to our doctor about when it comes to those first 15 minutes after birth, right? We just finished placenta. That was a big one. Any questions on that, reach out to me. I'm still reeling over everything that I learned on that. There's more to be said, but I'll leave it at what it was. Maybe another time. But next week, we're going to just jump into the golden hour. So I want to know everything from skin to skin and the benefits on that, breastfeeding right after birth, and what other options are there during that golden hour, right? I'm going to do a specific episode the following series episode on the medications. So vitamin K and erythromycin, that's going to be a big one. So just next time, it's going to be probably a little shorter, and we're just going to talk about like skin to skin and bonding and the baby's looking into your eyes, just some beautiful stuff. So don't miss that one. And other than that, I have a workshop coming up, and the childbirth crash course is coming beginning of November 4th, 5th, and 6th. Okay, so get on that. I'll have I'll probably do a little promo, so you'll get that information. All right, I'll see you next week. Bye. Thank you for listening to My Friends and Nurse presents the Birthling Podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found it valuable. Before we go, a quick reminder. The information shared on this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider for any medical concerns or questions. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Your support helps us reach more people and continue to bring you great content. Until next time, stay healthy and stay informed.